like to talk about business as a vocation. A gentleman by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, instead of going into the length of how to pronounce that, and that is how you pronounce it, he wrote a book on flow. It was a bestseller. It's probably been about 8-10 years ago it came out. But he wrote another book, and the book is called Good Business. And he makes the point, good business is not a bad thing as made out by people saying, oh, those rich people that own their own business, they're doing things that they ought to just give it away. That's the end result, the bottom line thinking. They have more, they should give more. I'm not arguing with that. What I want to talk about is business becomes successful when either a service or a product makes life easier for a majority of other people, and which frees them up to do other things that brings enjoyment into their lives, makes them happy. So, getting back to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote Flow and Good Business, I'd like to talk to you about someone I've already mentioned earlier, Linda Kaplan Thaler, who the Kaplan Thaler advertising agency created the Aflac duck. She also created the jingle for Toys R Us, whom went out of business last year, but for over 20 years it was the premier toy store. And the jingle, she didn't realize how popular it was until she, this past year, was in Japan giving a talk. She now just writes books and travels around the world giving talks. And she was in Japan, and the audience there broke out in her jingle from Toys R Us. She was just amazed. They sang it in Japanese. Getting back to Linda Kaplan Thaler, when she was in advertising, which she still is, but she had an account, and it was Wall Street Journal, and they were going to do a campaign promoting investing and things of this nature. She had a chance to interview Warren Buffett, second richest man in the entire world, I believe. So she had 10 minutes to interview him, and she's thinking, I need more than 10 minutes to make it effective. So she read his autobiography, and in it, she found something out about Warren Buffett. She goes to the interview, and it's about ready to start, and she said, Mr. Buffett, I brought a gift for you. Now, second richest man in the world, people are always probably giving him gifts and telling him what a great man he is, how brilliant he is, how he strategizes investments, and just laudatory. She takes out of her purse, she had a little cooling element in there, I guess a baggie of ice, and she takes out Warren Buffett's favorite drink, cherry Coca-Cola. And she said, I thought you would like this. He looked at it, he looked at her, he looked back at this, and this is what he said. I've been doing interviews for decades. No one has ever been thoughtful enough to bring me a cherry Coke. I'm canceling all my other interviews and meetings for you have all the time you want. Linda Kaplan Thaler had 2.5 hours with Warren Buffett. That is something to think about. She built a relationship on a cherry Coca-Cola. She read up about him. She learned about him. In psychology, it's called psychological reciprocity. And what that means is you first try to understand the other person first entirely and know about them. And when they realize that you really do, they in turn reciprocate, and they want to see what they can do for you. She wrote a book called The Power of Nice. Phenomenal book. I promoted it a lot and I gave it away as gifts. I bought a number of them and gave it away as gifts at my workshops. I used it as a tool to get people to participate. Anyways, in that, she tells the story of Frank, the security guard, who was a security guard in her building, didn't work for her directly. Her building is in New York City. And Frank never met a stranger. Everybody's like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? And if he thought you were from out of town, where are you from? And what's it like there? And he went through a whole list, genuinely interested in people. Well, a gentleman who owned a very large company was flying in from Minnesota, very Midwest, conservative type personality. Coming to New York, this gentleman was prepared from the stereotypical New Yorker. They would be cold, distant, totally not relationship oriented. And he was choosing between two advertising agencies. One was Linda Kaplan Thaler's agency, and the other one, I can't remember who the other one was. But he goes to her building, and he enters the building, and here's Frank. Hi, how are you? You're going to the Linda Kaplan Thaler agency? It's on this floor. Where are you from? Your accent is different, and what's it like there? And he just genuinely entered into a conversation with this man, and he escorted him to the elevator and shook his hand and told him to have a good day, sincerely. Well, this gentleman, the CEO of U.S. Bank, one of the large banking companies, was really impressed. This was totally not his preconceived concept of what New Yorkers are like. He goes upstairs and he meets Linda Kaplan Thaler, and they do their promotion on how they would do commercials for U.S. Bank. And they did get the contract. Now, I read this story, and I tell stories at my workshops to make a point, and the point on this one is building relationships. And in the book, Power of Nice, she wrote that Frank, the security guard, had really broken the ice because the CEO of U.S. Bank was, who's that guy down there? Is he from New York? He was so friendly and genuine. Linda said that if it wasn't for Frank, getting the contract would have been harder. But Frank had made it a lot easier because he showed a side of New Yorkers that people from out of state really didn't think existed. I called up the Linda Kaplan Thaler advertising agency and I wanted to know, did Frank get rewarded for doing what he did? And her personal secretary, I didn't get to speak to Linda Kaplan Thaler, but her personal secretary said, oh yes, he did get rewarded. And this book had come out a year earlier, and she said, I'm sure he is still spending money from the American Express gift card that they had given to him. It was quite a big sum. Just one way of showing appreciation for the good service. And once again, Frank never met a stranger. This is who he was like with everyone. One day I was doing a workshop up in New York City for the United States Census Bureau up there. And I made a point of going over to that building because I wanted to meet Frank. Wouldn't you know it, he was off that day. But the two security people that were there, they said, I'll play Frank. You can interview me. I didn't get to meet Frank, but I love sharing Frank's story. It's called building a relationship all the time, with all people. It's a genuine way of really making connections. And isn't it the truth, and aren't we realizing it now? We can't do it alone. We need other people. And isn't it far better to make friends and build relationships with other people rather than being adversarial or just utilizing people and manipulating them? I hope the story has helped. The Power of Nice is a wonderful book. It's jam-packed full of true stories of people that, to get ahead in business, you don't have to be cutthroat. Being nice is the optimal way. One other story from this book. One time in the book, Linda Kaplan Thaler tells the story of an account she had. They're having trouble getting the account paid. And it had gone a couple of months. And what she did, instead of sending the dunning notices or having an attorney call, she baked a dozen brownies and sent it with another bill and put the note in there saying, "I hope you enjoy these and we look forward to receiving your payment. Thank you for being our customer." And thank you for watching this story.